Hi, friends. Thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Coach podcast. I'm Bethany Lewis, the Concussion Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. Before I introduce my guest today, I just want to make sure that you all know about a free guide that is available on my website. It's the 5 best ways to support your loved one dealing with a concussion. So if you have a friend or family member who's struggling with post-concussion symptoms, or you're the one struggling and would like your loved ones to know more about what you're going through and how they can help, head over to my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com, and download that free guide. And here we go. I get to introduce my awesome guest today. Her name is Sarah Wuebbolt. Sarah is a student, rower, and brain injury advocate from Toronto, Canada. After sustaining 3 concussions, the first happening a few days after her 12th birthday, for the past year, she's been navigating the challenges of post-concussion syndrome while continuing to do the things she's passionate about. Sarah is a national-level coxswain working towards her private pilot's license and an aspiring anesthesiologist. She is also the creator of the Instagram account Hope Post Injury, where she shares relatable content to support other young survivors of brain injuries. Sarah is passionate about breaking down stigma, sharing her experiences, and showing that recovery is always happening, even when it's slow. When she's not on the water or in the air, Sarah is mentoring younger students, facilitating conversations amongst younger grades surrounding topics like mental health and student life. She created a recovery pamphlet that covers the 6 most common concussion symptoms and provides small daily strategies to combat them. Through every setback, she's learned that you don't have to look injured to deserve care, and that healing starts with being believed. So thank you so much for being here, Sarah. I'm excited to get to know you better and to have you share your experience and wisdom today. So let's just jump right in. Can you tell us more about your injury and like how long ago it was and what happened?
So my first concussion, I've had 3. It was just over 5 years ago. It was in January of 2020. And during that one, I served a volleyball. It hit the ceiling, it came down and hit my head. And after that, in the moment, I fell over. I had a little bit of dizziness and a bit of a headache, but my school nurse, she came, checked me out, said I was fine. I went back to class. And then the next day I fainted in my French class and went to my family doctor. I got diagnosed with my first concussion, and that one lasted 6 weeks. But after that first one, the knowledge back then was really just go sit in a dark room, do nothing. You can't even read a book. That I wasn't at school, especially that was just right before the pandemic, and being in grade 5, it's one of those times where you're learning to still build all of those connections with friends and everything, that it was really difficult for me just to sit in my room all day. That during that time, I would say I settled into a bit of a depression because I was so isolated from everyone, and none of my family members had ever had a concussion or lived with someone that had a concussion before, that they didn't know what to do. And then I'm also navigating this without having a lot of context about what even is a concussion, that I just made it really difficult. And then after that, recovered. I had my next concussion when I was in grade 8. And then I recovered from that one about 6 months later. And then my most recent concussion was in December of 2023. That one, after about the 6-month mark, I was still getting symptoms. So I ended up getting diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome, and I live with that today. It's just, in terms of the last 2, they were less the research then especially me, who I understood what I needed from that first concussion, that I was returning to real life faster, but still while still dealing with these symptoms and finding the strategies to cope.
Mhm.
I like that. I feel like I didn't settle into that depressed state as the same thing that I had settled in with my first concussion, which made it easier, but then it was also still difficult because the recovery time was so much longer. And I've had lots of friends that have had like sports induced concussions, and they've been like the weekend, oh, they're back to their sport, or max 2 weeks and they're back to normal life. For me, like not having that, everyone's telling me it should only take 2 weeks. And after the 2 weeks mark, you're like faking it because it's not possible to last that long, as that's the preconception lots of people have regarding concussions, which also made it more difficult because it's a lot of the advocacy for myself.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm really excited to dive into that more. I'm so grateful that you're putting that out there and helping to change the narrative there, helping people to see what can actually be happening for kiddos. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit more about some of what the symptoms were, like how it played out for you in your life?
Well, day to day now, I still have my headaches and my dizziness, but across all of my concussions, the symptoms have pretty much been very widely different. Well, with my first concussion, I dealt with a lot of sensory issues, so noise and sound I was very sensitive to. My first few days back at school, I had the whole getup, the baseball cap, the sunglasses, and the earplugs. Like I, my friends all told me I look like an undercover movie star heading to school. But after the second and third concussion, I would say weren't as much like that. There was more brain fog that I developed after my second concussion, with like especially a lot of difficulty when having conversations. I struggled a lot with following like how the conversation would go, and with like even deeper into that, holding eye contact during a conversation, I still find to be difficult for me, because if I don't like, I can hold eye contact for a bit, but then when I look away, I speak. I don't know what it is, but I've seen that I process what the conversation is going easier than if I'm like focusing on holding that eye contact while responding and like what's happening. So that came a lot after the second concussion, and especially on worst days where I have like really bad migraines and it's just I'm not like functioning at my normal best. I still go back into that state, especially with like the really bad withhold having conversations. And yeah, the dizziness and headaches have been pretty consistent throughout the three concussions. And even now, like with my post concussion syndrome, I see like I'll have headaches bi-weekly, sometimes weekly, depending on how bad they are, or if I'm like going through a period of like stress, or like
Mhm.
this past 2 weeks I've been in exams, so a lot of that like heavy concentration has exacerbated my symptoms, and I saw myself getting more headaches and more dizziness episodes more frequently. But
Mm.
at the same time, just like I've learned how to manage that in my strategies throughout my like concussion that have helped.
Excellent. So yeah, I would love to hear some of those strategies and things, but first, what about this experience of concussion surprised you? Like, how much did you know about them prior to this, and what was surprising for you?
Before my first concussion, I knew nothing. And even during my first concussion, I probably still knew pretty close to nothing, just because of like my first concussion. I went to the doctor. She said, okay, here, I'm signing off on your stool sheet to say you have a concussion and you need these accommodations. And here's the most generic pamphlet ever that tells you the 6 steps to return to school and sport after concussion. Doesn't tell you
Mm.
what they are, just you have a brain injury. Like, I think now, especially after living through the three concussions, and obviously, like I'm not a neurologist or anything. I don't have the perfect description of what a concussion is, and even like I think today we still like the brain is still something that we're still doing so much research on, that I think no one even has that perfect definition. But just building it for myself, that it's like, hey, like brain injury, like it's affecting like your life on a whole. That that surprised me a lot, to just like, okay, it's not just something where you can sleep it off, you drink some water, you'll be fine. Like it's actually, it like affected my life. It affected like my relationships with others, and just how I even perceived myself being someone who would have setbacks, and like after days where I'd be like on an upward trajectory, doing amazing, no symptoms, and then one day comes, I'm doing something and it's like now I can't function the rest of the day because I have a terrible headache or like very bad fatigue. That it surprised me in terms of how that went. Like when you get given that original sheet that I was talking about, the most basic six steps, like it says, okay, every 24 hours you can progress to the next step. And if you get something, you have to go back to the previous step for 48 hours. But that doesn't tell you what's going to make you have to go back a step, or what are the symptoms going to be like. Like if I have a few symptoms, can I still move on, or am I only moving on when the symptoms are no longer there? So I think like a lot of this stuff, even with my first concussion and my second probably, I still knew 0 to like maybe 50% of the story. And now, since I've lived with it for like the past over 5 years, I have a better idea of what it is, just like in terms of me personally. But yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It can be. I think that can be very surprising for people. The fact that, like you said, it affects so many things. Like I don't know why we do this, but we tend to not connect the fact that our brain is like involved in everything, all of the processes in our body. And so, but I think too, people, they hear concussion and they don't think brain injury. They think, oh, I just hit my head. Like it's not. They don't always make that connection. And so I think sometimes that's might be contributing to why it's surprising. But yes, I appreciate you bringing that point out. And I think it is helpful for people to hear just that, yes, this impacts everything. So what treatments or therapies did you try and have you found to be helpful?
Well, a lot of my first concussion, I did a lot of physio, and I know lots of people that have seen success through that. I personally didn't. And I've still tried that a little bit now recently with my post-concussion syndrome. I have a really great physiotherapist up at a local children's hospital near me. But I think out of everything that I've tried, the best treatment I've found has been like just getting in control of my breathing and then therapy. For me, breathing, like anytime I feel myself like having a headache come on or dizziness, and I'm not in a like position where I'm able to just get up and go for a walk outside, like just like taking a moment, closing my eyes and focusing on like breathing in and out, like just getting my, I guess, nervous system back in check and just like recentering myself with my body has helped a lot for me.
Mhm.
And then therapy is something that I've started just this year. And like just having an outlet where I can just talk about whatever it is that I'm stressed about at that time, it has helped a lot. Like at first I'd started it because it was like meant to be focused on my concussion and like focused on like building strategies to get back to normal life. But I found it actually to be most useful as just that outlet. So then when I do have symptoms, at least they're not like super tied to whatever is like stressing me out, because I have like that other outlet on the side, and then it just my symptoms probably or most of the time become tied to other things like concentration and stuff, which is more manageable than if I'm like dealing with a bunch of stuff right now. It's been what I found probably one of the best outlets.
That's great. I'm so glad that that's been so helpful for you. And is the person who your therapist familiar with concussions then specifically?
Yeah. The Children's Hospital, it's called Holland Bloorview, and they have a whole concussion wing there, which is really great. So I have my whole support network, which I've been very lucky about with my concussions. Once I found like a good support network of like my neurologist, my physio, my therapist, like they all work together to kind of like be my support team. And just that's I've heard lots of stories of people that haven't found doctors that have under like just been there to like listen to what's going on with them. And my original pediatrician was like that. She would just kind of brush off whatever I was saying. That now, like, yeah, once you find a good support network in terms of doctors, I feel like your entire recovery trajectory, especially with post concussion syndrome and it being something that like is still very unknown and it's not visible to anyone, it's really important and it like makes the recovery trajectory better.
Yes. Amen. Thank you for saying that. And I do think that just the message for people listening, if you are looking for help, try to find somebody who has a deep knowledge and experience with concussions specifically, even if it's on the more on the mental health side of things, like a therapist or counselor. If you can find somebody who's familiar with brain injury, that is going to be that will make a difference. So I'm so glad that you've had that experience, Sarah, that you've been able to find people who understand it and are able to support you in that way. That's huge. I'm really glad for that. So I know that you've also talked about strategies and things that you've found that like to help calm your nervous system. Do you have any like tips or tricks or things you'd love to share about what you found to be helpful?
I try to meditate daily. Recently, that's something I've picked up at the start of this year. That, like, deep breathing, it's a strategy I've had for a while and just like doing that in the moment. But in the mornings, I try to start myself off with a meditation or right before I'm going into like a test or an exam, just to like calm myself, recenter myself. And like, I do a lot of guided meditations now. One of my favorite apps, it's called Insight Timer, and it has this whole like library of free meditations that I love. And then also, other strategies, like I mentioned walking outside. Most of my concussions happened around winter time. So I was lucky in Toronto, you're never not going to have a cold winter air outside. So lots of days, if I had like a bad symptom in class, I just go for a walk outside, which was really great. Just have a moment to feel like cold air on my face. And it really like, I don't know why, calm my symptoms down and just reset that. Then, I guess sleep in water is an umbrella thing everyone says, but it really is important. I used to not think it was important, but I'm now a very big believer in my 8 hours of sleep every day. So
That is good. Words of wisdom coming from a young person. I like it. You know how important sleep is and hydration. Water is very important as well. I love that you're bringing these things up. Thank you. I'm curious. You said that the one of your symptoms is dizziness, but that walking is helpful for you. Do you feel like you're able to walk safely even though you're dizzy, or how does that usually play out?
my dizziness, it's less of a balance thing, more of an in my head thing. Like I when I feel dizzy, it's not that my like vision like gets messed up. It's more so I can feel myself like off balance. But and originally that did used to I just feel like I can't walk. Like I need to like go and sit and like sit down, like head between my knees. But I think also like that's come with a lot of like understanding of my symptoms that I now know like I'm not gonna fall over if I walk, and I can like just get up and go. And like I think I've also understood that with myself, sitting down like head between my knees, it isn't going to help as much as if I just go outside. And like even if I sit down or just getting outside just to feel like fresh air helps me more than if I like try and push through my symptoms inside and just like staying wherever like that episode came on. So yeah, sometimes the dizziness does make it more difficult, but a lot of the time, especially over the past few years, I've just like learned that like I have my wall that's like, okay, this is like your limit. Don't push past this because otherwise like something will bad will happen and it'll last for longer than you need it to or want it to. But within that space, just push yourself as far as you can to that limits because you know, like I know now it'll make me bounce back quicker and get back to whatever I was doing before faster.
Yes, I think what you're bringing up a really important point of that finding that just right balance or the just right challenge. You do want to push yourself. It is important to move and to get to challenge yourself in those ways. Like that's why we do therapy and things, right? Like we're pushing you in a safe way, but without pushing past the point of no return, where not no return, but longer period of recovery, right? So it is challenging to find that, but you with experience and with I think I saw on one of your posts the fact that like dealing with setbacks is like the mindset around it can be like, okay, well, I found my new limit and now I know where to push to. And I loved that concept of like being able to kind of change the whole idea around a setback. Like, okay, this isn't the worst thing ever, although it feels like it in the moment, I'm sure. But now I know more, I have more information to go off of for how to move forward. So I appreciate that. And the fact that outside is so helpful, that cold air in the winter and the natural light, I'm sure, is also impacting it. Those are really, really good. Just that fresh air. So thank you for sharing that. I would be really interested in hearing how you, especially like as a teenager, which is a time where, and like growing up, you were 12 when the first one happened, right? Like, how did you discover and love yourself through all of this? I mean, that's a phase of life where people are generally trying to figure themselves out anyway, and you're doing it with a concussion. So how did that come about for you? Any tips that you'd give to other youth who are dealing with this and trying to figure out who they are and love themselves through it?
I think like it took me a long time, especially after that first concussion, just to realize that like my symptoms, like they don't stop me from being me and like still living as much of my life as I can. And that is like safe for me to do while having an injury. That, especially also after that first concussion, I like since I've been young, I've always been one person to like want to try and do everything and like be on top of everything, whether it be like school or extracurriculars, and really just like put 110% into life. But I think I had to realize and just learn that productivity and like always putting in that 100%, 10%, like that doesn't equal how, like, it doesn't equal my self-worth. Like, if I'm not putting in 100%, the 10%, like, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person or doesn't mean like I'm worthless. It just means that, okay, like, I can't do that right now. We need to find a new normal where I'm able to get back to there or get back to a place where that it feels like another version of my 110%, but just not like overexerting myself to the point where I'm getting these symptoms that just like when I start to do that by like celebrating like tiny wins, if there'd be a day or just a period of time where I'd go and my symptoms would either be of like less severity or they just wouldn't be there at all, just celebrating that. And like anything I did, whether it be like getting up and like setting those goals, like, hey, like I did just a straight week of meditation, now I did 2 weeks, and building those routines to celebrate how far I'm getting in other aspects of my life, smaller aspects, it rebuilt my confidence and like my feeling of, okay, it's my new normal. I can't go back to how I was before. That's just not an option for me. Like, I have this now, I'm living with it. We have to figure some way out to love myself and just like understand that I'm still growing. Like, I have like one of the, I don't know, in my opinion, I have the best life a teenager could ask for. Like, I still get to do everything while just understanding that, okay, like I've gone through something that's hard, that's difficult, that like reshaped how my perception of myself, just set my life on a different path than when I was probably before that, or I decided to serve that volleyball. But I can find, whether it'll like, no matter how long it'll take, how windy of a road it will be, like it took me a while to realize that I'll always find my way back to that center line, my original path. And that came with a mix of like support from friends and like and family, and just getting other people to understand, this is what I'm dealing with now. Like, this is how you can support me, how you can help me refine myself. And then also connecting with other people that have concussions, have gone through the same thing or a similar thing to what I have, and understand what it feels like to have days where you're doing great and then the next day it's a setback, and you're not a failure, you're just still like growing, you're still healing, and it's important to understand that. So yeah, support groups and family have been really helpful in that. And then also just like taking a moment to recheck in with myself and re-understand that, like, hey, you're still recovering, you're still doing fine. Like, this like one moment, one bad moment, it doesn't like set you off your course. It doesn't like define like the fact that you don't have a lot of self-worth.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. This is really beautiful. I appreciate that you talked about the support from other people too. I'm curious, were there things that people around you said or did that was particularly helpful or particularly unhelpful as you were going through this recovery process?
I'll start with helpful. That probably was like a lot of times, like especially when I said like with my first concussion, like my parents, like they didn't really know what a concussion was. Like it was new for all three of us that like for them, just like I think what was really helpful on their part to me was just even if they didn't know, taking the moment to, okay, this is the research I found. And sure, sometimes it wouldn't be the most applicable to my situation. And I would try a strategy that they'd find online and it wouldn't help. But just knowing that like going there to take that moment to do the research and figure out like hopefully this will help this person that has like this concussion, that's what was really helpful. And it just showed me that like, hey, like we don't know how to help you perfectly. Like there's no document that lays out this is exactly what you should do when you have a concussion or what you should do to care for someone that has a concussion. That here's what I found. We can try all these things. If they don't work, they don't work. That's okay. But like we'll figure something out so you can get back to normal. And in terms of friends, like it was difficult as well because like in grade 5, like no one knows what a concussion is. We're like everyone's like there's not like any really magical where you can tell someone I have headaches randomly come on when I'm writing a letter, or I have headaches come on when I'm reading and I feel dizzy and I can't be here right now because the lights are too bright. Like there's no magical way to tell anyone that rather than like to keep advocating for yourself. And that gets extremely tiring after like the 5th time of trying it. Not even the 5th, like probably the 3rd. So I think in terms of friends, just having other people that like once I would tell them like once or twice, like this is what I'm dealing with right now. If you see me sitting out for a minute or you see me go outside, it's just because I don't feel great right now. Like, and letting them a lot of times, I was really lucky. My friends sometimes even would like advocate for me on my behalf and just like whether it be to teachers or other people in the class that just didn't really understand, it made it a lot better. So it just showed that it's not all being on me to navigate what was already a very like isolating and singular recovery path alone. You have these other people supporting you. And then on the flip side, it becomes unhelpful when people just, I've had countless people tell me, like, the problem with concussions, it's not like a broken arm. You don't have a cast that the doctor's saying, okay, 6 weeks, we'll get you back for an x ray, and then we're taking this cast off. You can walk on it, you can use your arm to write, like, whatever, you're fine. There's no set time. Everyone says 2 weeks. Sure, for some people, it'll be less. For some people, it'll be exactly 2 weeks, and that's amazing. But for so many other people, it's longer. And since there's no set time, especially I think for me, just because like I was so young throughout all of my concussions, like it's a lot within that time that people will just tend to believe that you're faking an injury for attention to get out of something. That I've had countless teachers like just tell me that like there's no way you still have this. Like it's been too long. How can you participate in one thing? Like, how can you go to your job and like teach grade 3's math, but you can't participate in a self-defense unit of gym class right now? And okay, that one's pretty obvious. Like, I can't participate in something contact, but what like it's just understanding that and having to still advocate for yourself that it made it like difficult and very unhelpful because I'm like already you're trying to deal with recovery while trying to get other people to understand that right now like I need time to heal. I need time to take like time for myself to figure out the best way that I can heal. And you telling me that I'm just faking it or I'm doing this for attention because I don't want to participate in your class is not helping. It's just making it more difficult because now I'm juggling two very difficult things. Like,
yeah, I could see how it would be, especially for kids, for youth and like teenagers, that people, I don't know why society does this, but I could see, and as you're bringing it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that people might accuse somebody younger of just trying to milk it or like just faking it or just, yeah. it's not as bad as you're saying it is. Like you're just trying to get out of stuff. Like I could see that judgment happening more for kids than being flung at adults for some reason. I'm not sure why that is, but I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a good thing to be aware of. And I'm curious, and I can see how it would also be exhausting, right? Like you said, you're trying to put so much energy into figuring out how to get better. And yet you're also having to like advocate for yourself or like figure this, how to convince other people that this is real. Have you found anything that has been helpful, or do you think that it would be, I don't know, just like, could there be some sort of training that teachers could have? Like, I'm just wondering if there's any ideas that you have of what might help in that situation.
I think there needs to be a mandated course that teachers go through, because every year at the start of the year, we hear the Rowan's Law thing and we sign like that pledge. And sure, they have like their little spiel, like, oh, if you see a concussion and someone's happened, like, don't go back, take the time to recover. But I feel like you hear that story so often that it loses meaning. And it's bad to say, but it's the same thing as like the land acknowledgement. I'm not sure. Where are you from, actually?
I'm in Utah. I'm in the States.
Okay. In Canada, we say a land acknowledgement for like recognizing that Indigenous peoples were on our land before us. And it's very important to say, but I feel like a lot of times you say it over and over. Like for us, we say it before every assembly. And I've memorized it at this point. If I just say it, it's not meaning it. But if you put the thing behind it, that why is this important? Why is this important to you personally? It adds more, which coincides with Rowan's Law, that there needs to be some sort of mandated course, especially for gym teachers, because you're part of the health and physical education department. Like you should be the ones that know the most about this, especially because sports concussions are so common that there needs to be a mandated course. There needs to be things where we just talk about why it's important to take the time to recover. Not just, okay, here's a pledge, like you're saying, okay, we signed this, we agree, we're gonna stay off sports if we get an injury. Like, no, what's the background behind that? Just hearing a story of one person and hearing it the same thing over and over again every year, you begin to memorize it. You sign it without putting any thought into it. But if you take the time to put the thought behind it, it'll actually mean more. And then we won't have these instances where people are telling you you're faking it. Like, yes, you're completely fine after 2 weeks, go back to it and everything.
Mm-hmm. I think that people, it is what you're saying of like it getting so rote that you don't even like think about it anymore. Makes sense. I'm not familiar with Rowan's Law. What is that?
Rowan's Law, it's a story of this girl named Rowan who she's playing for some team in Canada somewhere, and she was playing, I think it was rugby. She got her first concussion, and you sort of know when you get a concussion, like you can feel your brain jostled up, you have the symptoms come on. She wasn't feeling great. She sat out for the rest of the day. The coaches didn't say anything about it. They're like, hey, like just go home, recover. She came back, she plays 2 more games, she got 2 more concussions. By the third one, she was fatally injured and had her brain bleeds and everything, which was really unfortunate. But if there had been someone mandating her in from the beginning to tell her, like, you can't come back to this sport, you can't play in any more of these games and everything, those further 2 injuries would have been prevented. And that's where Rowan's Law comes from, just saying that once you get one concussion, once you get any like significant hit to the brain, even if you're not diagnosed with a concussion in that moment, you need to take like the mandated time to heal before you're medically cleared to come back. Just trying to prevent that. So at my school, I don't know if other schools do this, but we sign a pledge and just talk about it for like all of like 5 minutes at the start of every year. And it's important. And I think like Rowan's Law, it has a really important story behind it, a really important backing. But as I said, like it's so rote. Like it's even like me, who I've lived through it, I still sign it, and it just becomes something that's so ingrained into me that like, okay, like what's the point of me signing this? Like we need to have some actual backing behind it that's actually like something that's just talking about why it's important, not just, okay, sign this, like do this now.
I think that is a good like first step. Like I'm glad that there is some awareness or that it's like being brought up. But yeah, I think a lot of times, unless you've lived it or you know somebody closely who has dealt with it, you just can't understand it. You don't have a context to understand it in. And a lot of people don't know or understand about the long-term effects that a concussion can have. And, I've heard lots of different, the latest stats that I've heard is it's about 30% of people could go into that PCS, like post-concussion syndrome state, and not just recover, but most of people are recovering quickly from concussions. And I think that's why people don't understand. So I think, yes, I love, again, the advocacy and the awareness and sharing your personal story, because then people are like, oh wait, actually I do know somebody who's had that. And a lot of people are just trying to figure out what it is, and they go into themselves or don't talk about their it's embarrassing or whatever, for whatever reason we try to hide that we're struggling, and so people don't know. But yeah, getting it out there is so important. So I appreciate you sharing that. And kind of along with this, and maybe we've already covered a lot of it, but if there's anything else that you feel is unique to the experience of a concussion for younger people. So yeah, what message would you want kids or teens who are struggling with PCS to hear and understand?
Especially for teens and kids, school won't hold up for you while you're dealing with this. If you have to take time off school, there's no one that's pressing that pause button for everyone else to just take a moment and put a stop to it, which I think, and it's nothing upon the school, it puts it on the student that, especially if you're someone that is a very high achiever, like a type A student that will not feel FOMO, but just will get that super big fear of falling behind, and that will stress them out more, put them into that spiral, which eventually will just exacerbate your symptoms and make everything worse. I think something that's important to just remember is, even though you might be falling behind now, there will always be opportunities for you to catch up. Advocating for yourself, it is exhausting. I know it. It just, you don't after the second time, no one wants to do it anymore. Get the accommodations you need, because that is important in recovering, just in taking the time to re-enter your life and everything. It's important. And just don't blame yourself. I think that comes down to the root of it, because if you blame yourself when you're falling behind on school from an injury, it's not helping you. As I said, it's putting you into that spiral and everything. And that's probably one of the most important things. And then also, if you don't get believed, and it's hard, but eventually you will come out of it. One person saying they don't believe you doesn't mean there's not other people that don't understand what you're going through, there's always another community out there, whether it be through support groups, through peer support helplines, through just finding doctors and other people who understand what you're going through. There will always be someone who understands. So whoever that one person is that just has some mental block against understanding that you have symptoms, that you can't do this right now, don't freak out about it. It's not the end of the world. And that one person having that mental block, it's not on you to break that down and to get them to understand. It's on you to focus on your own recovery and to just take the time to do that. They don't want to understand, that's their problem. They should go and get educated. But take the time and focus on yourself, find those people that will understand. And yeah, support systems, I think, throughout all of this are the most important, because you can't recover from this on your own. The recovery already is some journey that you have to figure out what works for you best and what doesn't work for you well at all. That alone is difficult enough. Just figure out, even if it's people who've never had a concussion before, who have never even heard the word concussion, who are just there willing to learn and go through this with you, that's what's important to find throughout all of this.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. There's so many things in there that I'm like, oh yes, that was so good. I think that adults and kids alike will be benefited if they can learn from what you just said. And I just want to pull out a couple of points in particular. I just feel like there's a lot of wisdom that in what you just shared, and it shows that you've kind of, and I don't know if this, maybe this would have happened anyway, but you're forced in some way to grow up faster, to get more perspective, see the bigger picture, which I think a lot of teens don't get until they're older. When you're in that kind of insular environment of a school that everything feels like it's all important to be a part of this, what you're in and how you're doing it, and be integrated into all of it. And so when you're forced out of that, it can feel so distressing and like just disorienting. But what you're saying of like, hey, the people right there, if they don't get it, that's okay. They don't have to get it. It's not on you to force them to get it. There are people who do, and broaden your vision, look for the people who do. Like that, I think that in and of itself is huge. And again, for like adults to hear as well, like it's okay if not everybody gets it. It's not your job. Your job is to take care of yourself and do the things that are in your power, which is to find those people who do get it and who can support you in a way that is meaningful. And I just think that, that seeing past high school or school, and like that there is a bigger picture, there's broader, there's more people, more opportunities, more things outside of this one little thing that you're in, is just so important to remember and to have that in your mind. And also I think the idea of not being, if you're being forced out of that time frame, that timeline that people are in as well, that can feel really disorienting. But it's not, that fear of falling behind is real, but not necessary. If you have, like, I think if you can see it from a different perspective, right? Like we tend to put all of these constraints on ourselves as far as timelines and things, but really we have our life to figure things out. I just appreciate that perspective of kind of like broadening everything. Like it's okay if you're not fitting into the exact mold that everything else is going in and at the same pace. Like, in fact, it can be a really beautiful thing. Like I see coming from you, who has experienced that, like so much a depth of understanding that a lot of people your age don't have. So I just think that I hope that people can hear that and appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that. It's really, really important. Do you have any advice? And maybe, I think you've shared some of this, but any advice specifically for the people who are loving and supporting someone who has a concussion?
I think there's two aspects of that. One, if you're coming in completely new to the concept of concussions, and the other, if you've lived through a concussion yourself and now you're supporting someone else who has a concussion. But first, like, take the time just to, as I said, like, educate yourself and just understand, like, educate yourself like about what a concussion is, and understanding that recovery is so individualized to each person that you might find a million things online and not a single one of them applies to whoever you're supporting. And it's sad to see, like, hey, you might feel a bit powerless in that moment, but in reality, you're still actually helping them because you're taking the time to show them that you care enough to step out there and figure out, okay, maybe this will work for you, but if it doesn't, that's okay. Like, I'm not going to force you to do that. And then also just asking, like, whoever you are supporting, what the support look like for them. And I think that works on both sides, because even if you are coming from like living with a concussion, you've had that before, you've had that experience, you might have had 1,000 strategies that worked great for you. And you might have also had a bunch other that don't. Try not to put those preconceptions onto that, whoever you're supporting that is currently living with a concussion. Obviously, give them as much tips and tricks as you can, but there will never be enough like tricks. There's never going to be enough strategies that you can hear from someone else to completely guide another person through their injury, because they are individualized. Like, even for me, I do my meditations. Someone might not be able to even like follow hearing a person's voice with like the music in the background. That strategy, which works amazing for me, it might just not be what works well for them. Or maybe even like deep breathing, it stresses you out more. So there's not one fix all, like one set path to recovery, which I feel like that's why, like, whenever you're supporting someone with a concussion, that person might not know what works well for them. It took me years to figure that out, but just make sure that you're holding their hand to see, like, if they need something, if they need to go to visit a physiotherapist, if they need a neurologist, like any like doctor help, any help whatsoever within any aspects of your life, always ask them if they want that. Ask them in any which way you can help. If they say in this moment that it's a time they just need to spend by themselves, recognize that, accept that, and just like give them that time. Encourage them to come talk to you whenever, if they do need help, whatever they may need. Even if they just need someone to vent to about the fact that like these symptoms are frustrating them or something in life is frustrating them, and that's just adding to their concussion, to their like stress that's on them right now. Be that, but don't make their recovery about yourself and like about you like trying to be there and like hold their hand and do everything for them throughout that. Just, yeah, like take that moment to, this is their recovery. It's so individualized that whatever's happening, let them, like, you're there as a support. You're there to like, you can guide them which way they need, but don't like micromanage it, and don't like say like, no, we're physio might not help at all. It didn't work well for me. Something I struggled with was my parents, who were great supports, they thought they were helping me by forcing me to continue going to physio, which in reality was doing nothing. Like, that's unfortunate, but like if they had like taken a moment to see like, okay, we're recognizing she's saying this isn't helping, we're not going to force her to keep doing this. Like, one thing I feel like, even for me especially, I was advocating so much in my other like school life and other aspects of my life, that when I was at home, I just didn't want to have to do that anymore. I wanted to take a moment just to be with myself and be around people that understood what I was going through. So just try and be that.
I think that being, just believing people and letting them have holding the space for them to have their own experience is so important. I think people just sometimes want to be seen and held, and just not guided in that moment sometimes. And I think that is important. And it is so hard as I'm sure as a parent and as a caregiver or somebody who loves, it's like you want to help, and it is a hard balance to find between holding space, letting them have their experience, just being there and supporting without questioning, and also helping give them the support, like the least amount of support necessary, right? Like, you want to support, but you want them to be doing things on their own and pushing themselves and finding the things that do help. So I can totally see how that's a hard thing to figure out. So if you're listening and you're in that space, just know that you're not alone in knowing that that's a hard thing. But I think, like you said, just asking and offering and saying, here, like, I'm here for you, and trying to be supportive in that way can be really, really, really helpful and important. And as well as like finding out the education piece, like learning about what options there are, what things can help if this one modality doesn't seem to be working. And you do want to give things a good shot. You don't want to just like try it once and be like, oh no, that didn't work, right? Like, you want to try it, give it a good shot. And if it's not helping, then find the next thing. And I think it can be helpful too, just to have the perspective that the right, quote unquote, right opportunities or knowledge, experience will come into our paths at the right time. Like, if we can have that trust and then move forward, then I think we're setting ourselves up for good things to happen. So I just want to throw that out there. I would love for you to share any more thoughts on setbacks and how you deal with those, how you manage hope through all of this.
Setbacks, I think for anyone recovering, you've dealt with like, you'll be doing great or just marginally better than you are right now, and then you'll have the day where it's just like, what the heck happened? Like, I was fine, and now I have a headache coming on, and I'm dizzy, and like all these symptoms, and I just want to like crawl in my bed and do nothing, and like just like go into dark hole and like not like move through life anymore. But with setbacks, like, they're difficult, and in the moment you feel like a complete failure. Just like, it's like, there was a lot of times, especially my first concussion, and it wasn't nearly as long as my other two, but I was just like, I'm not getting out of this. Like, it was week 3 and I'm like, I'm done. Like, my life has been like reduced to like me in a dark room, like having these headaches and not being able to function. And I think through that, like, just always understanding that hope, I feel like when you like just say it as its own, like it's seen as something that's like, oh, always keep having hope. Like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there's so many sayings around it that it sort of minimizes the importance of it, but just understanding that like it sucks right now, that like it's difficult. Like I know how difficult it is, and just like understanding that. But there's another, tomorrow's still always going to be another day. Like, we might wake up tomorrow and our symptoms are going to be equally as bad or worse, but we deal with that. And just try, reset yourself, and spiraling so it's always going to happen. There's no like end all way to say, nope, don't spiral. Like you're, yeah, my brain's heading down this path right now. Nope, we're going to stop it like right at the top. Like the perfect world, we'd be able to do that, but our brains don't work that way. And we have our inner monologues telling us that like, no, like, oh my God, like this is terrible. Like, what the heck? Like, I can't do this anymore. And you go down into this deep hole, which then will make your symptoms feel worse because those also are coming from in your head. And when you feel worse, they'll make them worse. Just brain likes to screw with us sometimes. But remember that like, hey, like whatever you need to do. For me, sometimes it would even be just like splashing ice cold water in my face and just like, hey, like stop freaking out right now. Like brain, respectfully, shut up. I don't want to hear you anymore. We're going to get out of this. Like right now, that might mean we go lie in bed. We do whatever we need to do. You cry, like whatever way it gets it out of your system. But whatever, like our next step from this, you get out of bed, you pick yourself back up, like try and regroup yourself and just like, hey, there's a way out of this. Right now, I'm staring down a dark hole, but we can figure something out. Whether that'll be like going online and like Googling, like, what's the best way to make myself feel better? Like doing your self-care, like checklist or something that'll just make you feel better in the moment and then deal with what's going to happen next. Like for me, I always found that like if I was ever going down that spiral hole, in the moment fixes, they're not long term, but whatever will make you feel better in that moment. Like if you have the time to just lie in bed and like with Netflix, watch your favorite show, like something comforting for you, do that. If you're not in a place where like you're at school or something or at work and you're just in this spiral that like you don't feel well, deep breathing, like take whatever is your in the moments like way to comfort yourself, do that. And then when you get home that night, when you have time to figure out a longer fix, sit down, whatever strategy works best for you, try and employ that. And just like remind yourself in whichever way you can. Maybe it'll be like on your desk, you have a little note somewhere that like you'll see it sometime. Like, I don't know, like, I have a light here. If I had like a note on this or something, and just to like remind myself that like, it's okay. Like whatever's happening right now, it's not the end of the world. It'll get better. And you just see that, like bring some positivity back, because it's really hard in those moments when you're spiraling to always keep whatever like that, like quote that is like in the back of your head. But just having it somewhere where it's like, oh, like I completely forgot like that. Like I still have hope. I still have a chance to get out of this. But here's this little reminder from some better, more positive version of myself to my like negative version of myself right now. Yeah.
I love that. I think I'm hearing you say that you validate where you're feeling and get yourself whatever help you need in that moment. And it's okay to be feeling that, right? But also having those positive reinforcing things that can help you like try to come out of it as well. I do think that it's important for people to hear and understand, like when the concept of hope is when it's not there, when you're not feeling it, it doesn't mean that it won't ever come back. And it's okay if even in that moment you're like, yeah, I don't believe that it will come back. Like I don't even have hope that it will come back. It's okay to be wherever you are, and it is not going to last forever. Like this is something that there will be another side of this. So like you can come through it and just give yourself a lot of love and self-compassion and grace in the moment. And I think which is, again, hard to do because the reason you're there is you're in this negative thought spiral a lot of times. So it's just, if you're in that space and you're listening to this, please just know that you are loved. It's going to be okay. And it's okay to be where you are, as much as it sucks. And like, it does suck. Like I think it is important to recognize and validate that because it's hard. So thank you for sharing those things. How you mentioned that there's still some like headaches and dizziness that you're dealing with today. Are there any things or like what helps keep you going? Where are you at now and what helps keep you going?
I think now kind of coincides with the hope. I feel like I also just have a more positive outlook on life in a sense. Like I've been like just always keeping something in the back of my mind that I have to look forward to, whether it'll be like hanging out with friends later in the day or like I don't know, for me, I'm working towards my pilot's license. Like just like, hey, like sometimes I do still get my headaches and I can have like I to personally I don't really think I have a set trigger anymore, which is unfortunate because it's not like one thing that I can avoid. But just like knowing that, okay, like this happens whenever it happens. In the moment, I have my toolkit of strategies that I can do to fix it, like my deep breathing. But we have stuff to look forward to. Like, don't freak out about this. That it's fine. Like, and I think I've come to like a part of my recovery where I've just I'm in a lull. I've just come to accept my symptoms as they are. And I've talked I was talking to my physiotherapist earlier this week, and he's like, a lot of people come to this point, but we've never seen a single case of PCS where it's been permanent downward spiral. Like you're never going to come out of it. Like there will always be somewhere for improvement. But I think now, like I've accepted my symptoms. I know how they happen, when they're gonna not when they're gonna happen, but I know why they happen, I guess. Like, just I move on with it, do something in the moment, and I try to do no one's perfect. When I miss a day with preventative strategies, like not beating myself up over it, but like we'll go back the next day and trying as best I can to do everything to like get back to as close as I can to like my old version of myself. And then also understanding that like this is my life now. My symptoms are here to stay. Well, they won't be, but as of now, they are. And like I'll throw a party the day that like it's been like a month and I haven't had a single headache. Like just keeping stuff like that in the back of your head. It keeps you going and not like stuck. Because like I said with the being like having like setbacks and that like your brain, like your outlook on how your symptoms are in your life on a whole affects how I feel like your brain decides to react to when you get symptoms and stuff, and like how severe they are. That if you just like understand, and it takes a while, it's very difficult. I'm still in my journey of figuring it out, but if you just take a moment to understand that, okay, like it's not the end of the world. You like PCS, it's frustrating and no one wants to have it, but you can't, there's no switch that says, okay, no PCS, we're done. Like you just need to understand and I feel like in my opinion, only then will it get better and will you like see a really significant upward trajectory in terms of just like feeling better and really reclaiming your life again.
I think that that piece of acceptance really it's so easy to say and so hard to get to, but it is amazing the mental and the shift that happens mentally, but also in other ways as well, because the way that we think about things impacts everything. So that having that mindset that makes that you feel like, okay, I can handle this. It is what it is. I know what I'm doing. Like that really does make a huge difference. So thank you for sharing that. Really quickly before we go here, I would love to hear a little bit more about how the rowing and the flying and these things has helped you rebuild your identity post-injury and helped in your recovery.
Well, rowing, it's a community sport. Like I'm the coxswain on my team, so I'm the person in the boat that's like leading and screaming at everyone. So a lot of days, like even with the early mornings and everything, and some days I don't want to go, but like just being there and having like they're my second family, my team, that has just helped me like find not even another support network, just another place where I can just be myself and like be around other people my age and just like have fun with them and like build relationships, especially my team, it's across 4 grades, so a lot of people I probably never talked to, I've become really close with them just because, like, we're on the team together and, like, we spend so much time together that you really are you're just, like, you're my sisters, and, like, yeah, and then it's helped me reclaim my identities. I just found another aspect of myself that I didn't think I would ever, like, if I hadn't joined the team and I hadn't, like, tried out first, like, last year, I definitely wouldn't have, like, found this aspect of myself that, like, I've grown to love and I don't think could ever leave me, like, and then flying as well, like, I don't know, just being up in the air where it's better than driving. I hate driving around other people. It's actually terrible. I started this year, worst thing ever. But flying, being like just me up in the air, like the world's my oyster, like really, and just like seeing the little towns and everything from a couple thousand feet up off the ground, like like all these things that I do now, I think just add to another aspect of myself that if I never had those opportunities and if I never really taken the moment to realize that, like, put myself out there, try something new, I wouldn't have found that. I wouldn't have found new aspects of myself that I love separate from my injury and everything. And like just getting a chance to, like, even I volunteered on the weekends at the National Ballet School, and they have this adaptive dance program which supports neurodivergent and children with like other physical needs. That just getting the chance to do that, it's like finding aspects of myself that if I'd never taken chance one day and shown up to volunteering like for one Sunday, I don't think like I would have never realized that I love working with kids and I love just giving back to my community. And it helps you find different aspects of yourself that, like, if you don't put yourself out there, you're never gonna get the chance to figure out new things about yourself. And I think that's been something really important for me, especially in the last few years, just taking like if an opportunity is given to you, obviously think critically about it. If someone's giving you a really bad opportunity, it's like sketch or something, don't do it. I'm not saying that, but if you get an opportunity or like and someone might not be offering an opportunity for you, go out, email someone, ask them if you can do something. Like try a bunch of things and eventually you'll find something where you find like home in and you end up loving it and it's just becomes a big part of your life.
I love that so much. I do think and I think that's a really good advice for anybody really, but especially if somebody's trying to rediscover who they are. And like after a brain injury, you may have different interests or you may want to shift and like may not want to do the things that you were doing before exactly the same way you were doing them. And so finding the things like it's okay that that's how it is, and find the things that do light you up and that allow you to grow and to discover yourself in new ways. And I just think that's really important. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm curious too, I know you said that you advocate, you've like done education with other kids. I'm not sure how has that played out. What do you do for helping other teens and youth understand concussions?
Well, I have my Instagram account for one that lots of my friends have somehow found, but and like that, not really in a formal aspect, trying to educate others, just like whenever I can, trying to spread awareness about like what a concussion is. And once I came out of the big part of my concussion, like having to advocate for myself, I think I got a lot more used to just telling people like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to try and help you understand it. That now it's made me more like comfortable with just like even having an impromptu conversation when someone else gets a concussion, whether it be like sport induced or another aspect of life, like no matter how long their injury is, just like giving them a bit of wisdom that I have picked up along the way, like in any way I can. And then something like there's other stuff that I've been planning to like want to start my school and educating like my school in a more formal way about like what concussions are, why they're important, like just what brain injuries are on a whole, and why it's so important. Because like brain injuries, like you only get one brain. It's like you have to take the time to obviously, for one, protect yourself, but then just understand that there are a million things that can happen to you in your life. You can't protect yourself against every one of them. Like wearing a helmet and a full body suit, it's not gonna save you. But and I don't understand how you'd like fit through a door in a bubble suit, but like just understand here are some of the things that could go wrong. And when they happen, if they do happen, pray they don't. But if they do, like what are the resources? And understanding that is, I think, something that's so important. And like I do want to start educating others in a more formal way based on my experience and just like research and knowledge that I've picked up.
There's a lot of need for more information about this to be given to people. So I appreciate what you're doing. If people do want to access your Instagram account or hear more from you, how can they do that?
Well, my Instagram account is Hope Post Injury, or you can just search up my name, Sarah Wuebbolt, and it should pop up too. But I I have lots of posts on there on everything ranging from what PCS is to in the moment you just got a concussion, like here's what I had wished I knew back then, and some knowledge that, like as I said, I've picked up along the way, and just sharing that, and then also strategies that have helped me. And yeah, my DMs are always open, so I'm always happy to hear from other survivors or people or family members or just general people in the thick of it right now and just want a friendly face who understands what they're going through to talk to.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think, did you have a PDF that you'd put together as well that you want me to link on here on our show notes?
Yeah, I did. I think I put that in the thing.
You did. You want to tell people what it is?
Oh, yeah. So part of my school thing that we do every year when we're in grade 10 is we have to put together something that is important to us, kind of like a passion project. They call it a personal project. And what I chose to do for that is I made a recovery pamphlet of the 6 most common types of symptoms. And for each of them, I put a little bit of a brief description about what the symptom is and how that affects the concussion on the whole and how that will affect you. And then on top of that, below, I include 2 to 3 recovery strategies for each of the symptoms. And there's multiple because, again, one size doesn't fit all. Every recovery is very individual. And yeah, there's many ways. Like those are only 3 symptoms, 3 recoveries, 3 strategies that I found through my research that I found to be applicable in my life and stuff I tried that they're on top of that. I have sources on there for you to like see other podcasts and websites and stuff that I'd visited to get research that I also recommend you check out. So it's a little 2-page pamphlet that has a whole bunch of information.
Sounds fantastic. And yes, we will link that in the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Sarah, for what you're doing and for helping people in this way. It's so important and so needed. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.